So hello everyone, welcome to the career night. I'm Luigi, I'll be one of the hosts for tonight. And we also have Nathan co-hosting.
Hello.
So thank you for tuning in today. At the end of the session, we're gonna have a little prize draw that you could win one of 2 Amazon gift cards.
Oh.
So value for $15 each. So our guests tonight are Kathy Enright, Board Treasurer of the Ontario Home Economics Association, and also she's an economist. We also have Beth Soden. She is an economist as well, and she's studying the Nutrition Communication Masters at Ryerson. So Kathy is going to answer the questions for the first half an hour till 7, or roughly 7 p.m. And then Beth will take over from 7 to 7:30 p.m. So let's start off with you, Kathy. And can you tell us a few words about yourself, and then we can get into the questions.
Sure. I'm retired. I've had a very illustrious career. I worked for a food company in Montreal, Best Foods, for a long time. And then I joined the Government of Canada. And I worked with a lot of home economists there through metric conversion, and also mostly in the consumer field. So I retired as a director after 35 years in the federal government. So I know if you're ever looking for a job in the federal government, you're welcome to call on me for some help, because it is a system. It is a protocol, as they would say. So that's who I am. And now I'm just retiring as the treasurer for the Home Act, but I've done that, the Ontario Home Economics Association, for 3 years. I assess the Trillium Fund. You know, there's the Trillium Resiliency Fund where people put in applications, non-for-profits. I do those, and I'm on the leadership team for our church. So,
well, that's awesome. You've got a lot of varying experiences there.
yeah. And one thing too is I've taken a course for board governance, and that's really, I couldn't tell you how important that was. So yeah, that's it.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, so let's dive into some questions. So first question is, there's a lot of confusion regarding economists. So can you define what an economist is?
Okay, so the term home economist has been around for a very, very long time. And it has been changed, diluted, dropped out of education. It's just gone all around the mulberry bush. But now, home economics, nutrition, foods is all back on the burner because of COVID. People didn't know what to do about meals, so we took the website. So we do have a web presence, we have a social media presence, and we took that and we made it more friendly as to what people could use. For instance, I go to the food bank and I said, okay, what are they getting at the food bank? A lot of canned beans, just to tell you. So I thought, well, they need a bean recipe. Anyway, stuff like that. But the Ontario Home Ec Association is a registered profession, which means there was an act that was put into place with the Government of Ontario, so that there are legal implications that come with that. So if you are a registered home economist, then you are under some very strict laws, how you practice and all of that sort of thing. So that's different from the dietitians. They are also registered. Accountants are registered. They all have different laws and bylaws and all of that. So it's a good thing for that to belong to the Ontario Home Ec Association, for the simple reason that you have that protection and you have that ongoing. So that's what it is.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point about the utilization of COVID and the downtime. Like people are learning different type of skills, or whether it's knitting or planting or nutrition base or keeping up with their finances more. So
yeah.
So maybe COVID could maybe even be a good thing in that learning case.
It is. It will put, well, they want, the Government of Ontario is looking at a bill right now to put foods into from JK to grade 12. So that's mandatory. I mean, that used to happen and it was taken out. And then home economics has morphed also onto the marketing side and also onto the chef side. Everybody wants to be a chef. We are about measuring, we are about nutrition. And so you see a lot of chefs on TV and so on, they have absolutely zero qualifications. And so that's what happened. That's what happened. I'm just gonna, sorry about that.
That's all right.
Sorry. And yeah, so we are in a bit of a morph. I want to tell you, oh, dang, sorry. It's my son, he's insistent. Just a sec. Brian, I'm on Zoom. Bye. Bye. Sorry, that's my son and
all right.
my little granddaughter. There you go. So something exciting that's happened that has a link with Ryerson actually, and Ted Rogers. I know a friend of mine is a professor over there. He's with CSR. I don't know if you know that. That's corporate social responsibility. Kernahan Webb, if you ever get a chance. So I came up with the idea that we should have a chair of consumer affairs at a university so that there would be research. So that you, when you go on, Beth or whoever, go on, then there is money, there is research all around consumers. And consumer can be huge. So my friend, Dr. Webb, he's looking for some money out of Ryerson. So it's just, stay tuned for that. I haven't, that hasn't come to fruition yet. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So the next question, like, what are the benefits of having being a professional home economist, like that designation or that title?
The designation, as I said to you, is a legal designation. It's like being a CPA. And what it gives you, it gives you a network. So you can use it or not. I mean, it's up to you. For me, over the years, I've always been a home economist. The designation is hard to explain, so I don't use it. I just use home economist. But it's opened up a network of people. I went to Brescia and I had a little leadership workshop there. And it gives you a whole support system of like-minded people. And it is like-minded people. It could be consumers, it could be dietitians, it could be the non-for-profit sector, could be sociology. It doesn't matter. It's all this like-mindedness where we're a helping organization. And when somebody sees that designation, they think, well, what is it? I don't think that's as much of an issue because I know you couldn't have, there's not enough money in the marketing bucket to promote the designation. But there is for people like us to recognize it and to use the networks that we have. They say, oh, you're a home economist. Oh, okay. Well, so am I. So what, it gives us that. And it looks nice on a resume. I'm big on resumes and cover letters and all of that. And it looks good on that. So that's my story for, get it.
Yeah, I like how like being an economist can be like anything from different, like you said, different like-minded individuals from different paths, but them all coming together for one purpose is definitely something to consider if you're looking into that designation.
And you can call on them. That's the other thing.
Exactly.
You can call me anytime and say, listen, will you have a look at my resume? Will you have a look at my cover letter? Will you have, yes, I'll say, oh, of course, sure. Because that's who we are.
Exactly. Okay.
Yeah.
So I know that you're retired, but one of the questions was, what does a typical day in your job look like? So you can pick like one of the jobs you had previously or your most recent one, or you can talk about your experience at RHEA.
Okay, I can talk about, I worked in the Office of Consumer Affairs for the Government of Canada for several years. So typical day there was, we looked at federal, provincial, territorial relations. So I was director of a committee there. So we talked about consumer issues across Canada, legislation. So learned it, I would touch that. We had a program for non-for-profit consumer organizations. And that was, people would say, well, okay, we need money to research, blah, blah, blah. So that would come into my day. And we ran a very comprehensive website and that would come into my day. What should we put on there? How should we promote it? This was early days. And one of the big claims to fame was we were the first people ever to talk about cell phone billing, you know, and people, God, remember those days when you had to buy minutes and all that stuff. And so we had a big part of our life with cell phones. So it was never stagnant. As I said to you, I always had co-op students. So we were hiring them, or after 4 months they would go, and I always had co-op students, the former co-op students hire the new co-op students. They didn't think it was so easy after a while. So that was my typical day. Those were the areas that I touched on a daily basis. So wide variety.
Did you what kind of like aspects of like being an economist kind of interest you? I know you talked about like financial and nutrition. Are there any other aspects? Maybe like, because like I know on our social media channels, we're kind of promoting economics from a wider scope. So we kind of talk about like at-home needs or like planting and stuff like that. Any of those kind of interest you?
I'll tell you the big one, and that is guaranteed income. We have a home economist here in Ottawa. She and her husband, her name is Ellie and Clark Top. They have been pushing for this, I don't know, maybe 10 years. And the government of Ontario, previous government, had a pilot project. And when this government came in, they canceled it. And then all of a sudden, guaranteed income is huge. If you ever look at the research on it and all of that. So that interests me to no end. And the other interesting thing is I saw again today, there aren't enough women on boards at the TSE. I mean, can you imagine? They have a, what's that called? Quota, and they can't even get women to go on the quota. So look into absolutely board governance is really important to take. The other thing that all of you should be taking is media training. Without media training, it doesn't matter whether you're going to speak to the media or not. I had somebody just this week tell me that, the subject lines on my emails, this is hilarious. He said to me, your subject lines on the emails always say a lot. I said, well, they're headlines. I said, I'm a communications person. They're headlines. I can't stand it when people never change the subject line and you sending them 15 emails and it always has the same one, hello or something. So that you learn in media training. Everybody on the planet needs media training because at some time that microphone is going to be put into your face and you need to know what messaging is about, what strategic communications is about. And since that nice young man said to me, my God, your subject lines are always headlines. That was a compliment beyond belief. So I sent him what a strategic plan looks like so he could sort of get on the program. Anyway, yeah, that's where I see you going. Boards, media training, guaranteed income. The Financial Consumer Agency of Canada. If you don't know about them, look them up. They do great work. And the other one is the Vanier Institute of the Family. So much going on there. And of course, we've had long-term care forever, and we've just ignored it all these years. But something else. So lots of things to be done there, because who are we? We are generalists, and even though you're in nutrition or housing or whatever you're in, you're still a generalist, and that's where the jobs are coming. These little spikes, not there. So say you made guaranteed income happen. Wow, that would be good. That's it. Anyway, that's my answer.
I just want to like kind of piggyback on like that communication piece we're talking about.
Sure.
I feel like it's very crucial in our time these days. Maybe because of COVID, we're not interacting with people as much. So I feel like our communication skills are actually lessening rather than growing.
Do you?
I think personally, that's what I think actually. Because like maybe not too many people have any like active they're not doing anything active in the sense like maybe they lost their job or they're like on a break from working because of COVID and
Right.
they can't really, there's nothing really to talk about besides kind of like generic things like how's your day, right? That's kind of how I feel when
Do
I
you?
talk to people during this time. I also think I'm interested in communications as well, same
Are you?
program as Beth's doing. So I feel like
Okay.
enhancing this communicative skill can help you more than just, let's just say my major is nutrition. So it can go beyond nutrition. It can be one like a critical life skill. So
It is a critical life skill. Have you
mhm,
ever heard of this expression? You should write this down. Strategy before tactics. So there's a company here in Ottawa. They invented that. Can't remember the name, but it's strategy before tactics. Communication is completely useless unless you have a strategy to go on with it. So you have to think about the strategy, and there are, and then people jump right to the tactics. So they say, oh, well, what can we, well, we need to be on social media. We need to do this. We need to do that. No, you need to stop. You need to get a communication strategy. And there is one for OHA, by the way. What's the name of that? Maybe Beth knows. What's the name of the, it's a college that did it for the Ontario Home Act. Oh God, they're in Kitchener. Okay, I'm not going to remember the name, but it's a college that has courses in communications. They have a PR degree. So you know what? You have to take the courses because you can't. Somebody else I know said, "Oh yeah, well I just learned it on the job." No, because just as that guy said to me, "Well, Kathy, you talk in headlines. That's training. That's not." And my son, who just called me here, he's also went through communications. We never talk unless we talk with a communication strategy. Look it up, learn it, take the course. God, isn't that terrible? I can't remember the name of that college. I'm sure Ryerson has, I don't know what you take in communication courses. Conestoga. Oh, you're so smart, Beth. Yes, Conestoga. Yes, Conestoga College. God, that just couldn't come to me. They have a great course there. And if you can know somebody there, if you can take a course from there or from anywhere, public relations is really where it's at. And I hope that you're learning it in your nutrition and communications. I hope that it's a professional communicator, a PR guy, somebody who's been out there. You know, I mean, let's face it. You could look at COVID, the communications coming around COVID. It must drive you crazy. It does me. Their messaging. And that's the thing on these Zoom calls, for instance. I would never talk to you unless I had the messaging all figured out what I want to tell you. I just wouldn't do it because it'd be a waste of your time. If I can't tell you about media training, about board trading, about strategy before tactics, then it'd be a waste. So you have to have messaging. So don't treat Zoom calls as if they're just a fun time conversation. They're not. You have to get your message across, whatever it is. So you have to get across to me, Luigi, that you're competent, that you know what communications is, you know what nutrition is. I'm sure about that. And you have to communicate that. I'm going to give another plug for something else, and I'm sorry, it is for women. It's the Women's Executive Network. I belong to that. I listen to that. My gosh, I've learned so much. These are top entrepreneurs in Canada, and they talk. You can ask them questions. You can ask them anything. It would cost a fortune if it wasn't during COVID time. So I take full advantage and learn a lot. So watch for these associations where you can learn something. The public relations, I don't know, CPRS, join it. It's where the public relations people live. And you should be analyzing that media on a daily basis. What would you say today if you were Ford, if you were Trudeau? I mean, they have advisors up the yazoo for communications, and they've not done a good job, my opinion. So there you go. Remember that strategy before tactics, because people jump to tactics and you have to cut them off and say, no, we're not talking tactics. We're talking strategy here. That's
Yeah,
my
I
big piece of
definitely
advice.
actually appreciate that knowledge there. I wrote it down so I can use that for my future
Use it.
communication endeavors.
Yeah. So when somebody starts talking, say, no, we're going to strategy. Anyway, yes.
Exactly. I have one more question, but
Sure.
before I ask it, I was wondering if anyone
Are they
in
on
the
the
group here
chat?
has a question. You can unmute yourself and you can speak verbally, or you can put it into the chat. So we can wait a minute or so.
Sure. Thanks, Beth, for that Conestoga. That was a good catch, because I used to know the professor there.
Hi, Kathy. My name is Stephanie.
Hi.
I have a question. Your
Stephanie.
background is very diverse, and I wanted to know if there was something in particular that made you switch from that big food company in Montreal to kind of like the public sector and the federal government, or if it was just something that always interested you throughout your career.
It always interested me, but you're more valuable going from private sector to the public sector, because somehow the public sector think, oh wow, they have industry experience. But this is the main reason, and I thought about this a lot. When I was at Best Foods, I could influence with my knowledge only Best Foods customers. In the public service, in the federal public service, I could influence 39 million Canadians with what I knew. The far-reaching effects, especially if you're an excellent communicator and you have a good background. I have a Bachelor of Science in Food. If you have that, then, and you know how to deal with consumers, you know how to, whatever it is, then you influence every single Canadian. It's powerful. It's huge contribution to Canada, huge. I mean, even when I think of this, the silly cell phone, as we were the first people that came out to help people with their cell phone. That was life-changing. So that's why.
Great, thanks for sharing. Yeah, it's very welcome. Interesting.
Yeah. And the non-for-profit sector, let me get a plug in for them. As I know some students at RHEA, well, Shelby Weaver, who I know, she's working in the non-for-profit sector. It looks great on your resume and you learn a lot. I'll tell you what you learn there. You learn management. You learn how to deal with people, all of that sort of thing. Yeah. Okay, this is a question in the chat. Wait, Luigi, tell me. Oh, where would someone start if they want to work in the federal? Oh, whoops. Wait a minute here. Okay, easy. I had somebody just recently from RHEA say, well, how am I getting, oh, you know who it was? It was Joy. You know Joy, Beth? I deal with her a lot. So she said, okay, I want to do something. Federal public service, there's something called, I think it's called a job bank. So you can, let me use that expression. Google the darn thing. Yeah, so there's CFIA. That is the people that regulate the food. I have a friend who works there in communications. You want to know what's going on there? I sent Joy to her. There's Health Canada. There is food policy at Agriculture Canada. A lot of food policy. If you're interested in policy, they need good people. Federal government they've had employment for food people in different areas before, but now it's just open. CFIA, for one thing, huge. Food policy, huge. Food safety, FAC, whatever they're called. It's the health department.
I thought it was called a TransCan. The health, no? No,
the FAC are the people that give us all the bad news on COVID. Public Health Agency of Canada. So there's the other one. The other one, as I mentioned, okay, that's the food, all the food buckets. Have a look. They post their jobs all the time. If you need help, just get to me. Luigi has my email. And yeah, they're always looking for good policy people. Like, you start off and you just grow in it. You just grow. Yeah, but I'm here to help you because we need good people in the public service. The same for Ontario. They have all kinds of regulations and God knows what on the retail side of life. But oh yeah, then there's product safety. That's the where they look after cribs and that sort of thing. So there's lots to do, but get your communications down.
I have one more question, if you don't mind.
Sure,
If you
of
have
course.
time.
Yep, I have
Okay.
time.
So, what did you wish you knew when you were in university that you know now?
I wish I knew that the only career path I thought was food was you know, I really wanted to work for a food company. So that came true. That was a good thing. But I wish that I had known more about the opportunities at the municipal, the federal, and in the government, because that's where you can contribute. I'm not saying the other jobs don't. I wish I knew more about that. I wish I was more involved in the non-for-profit sector. Absolutely. I missed all of that. So I'd urge you to have a look and get some experience there, because the not-for-profit sector is really hard and there's a lot of nasty people in it. And you know what? Good training. We had one completely blow up on us for conflict of interest. Yeah, interesting. Anyway, anything else? You're welcome to write to me, to send me your questions, or if you want to know further about the government, if you want to talk to somebody in the government. As I said, I've already sent Joy over to my friend at CFIA. She works out of the Guelph office, and everybody's at home, of course. So, and my son, who's a communicator, he works at, he's a sociology person, and you are in the social bucket, whether you like it or not. You're in the science bucket and you can be in the social bucket. So that's all good. So listen, I have great faith in all of you that you know, you're going to continue on, and I'm here. I want you to know that I'm here. I've seen a lot, I've done a lot, and don't dismiss me because I have seen a lot and done a lot. I want to be helpful. So thank you. I'll get on to my other call.
Before you go, do
Yeah.
you have a LinkedIn, or can they just contact you through your email?
Whatever. I'm on LinkedIn.
Okay. Do you mind posting your link for LinkedIn before you go, and then?
Well, I'm totally out of time. So you can just,
Okay.
because I feel bad. I feel bad for it's because it's RHEA. I mean, not that I'm going to quit there, but I hate to do that. So you can share my email, Luigi. I don't mind.
Okay. All right. I just
Yeah,
wanted to
but
say,
I am on LinkedIn too. Yeah.
just want to say thank you for coming out. You're a great guest.
Thank you.
All the best. Hopefully we can see you soon.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks a lot. Bye now.
Thanks, Kathy. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hi, Kathy.
Bye.
Okay, so our next guest is going to be Beth. Can you please describe tell us about yourself in a few words?
Ooh, sure. So I definitely don't have as much experience as Kathy does because I've only really been a student and a home economist at the same time. Right now, I am just finishing up my first year of my master's, nutrition communication at Ryerson, and I will begin placements in May. So if you have any questions about masters and getting into those types of programs as well, let me know. Also, I live in Sarnia, Ontario, if anyone knows where that is.
It's very far away from Toronto, for sure.
Little bit far, yeah.
All right, so the first question. So what made you decide to become a home economist?
Yeah. So initially, what made me want to become a home economist was, you know, the pressures of a student and feeling like I had to be part of as many organizations and clubs as possible. So that was definitely the first reason. But after getting in part of the organization, I realized how much I loved it and how in tune it was with my dietetic degree. So I started taking on more volunteering roles and leadership positions within the organization itself. And I was able to network like crazy. I even got my first job not out of university, sorry, my first year university, got a job just from networking at one conference. So you learn so many valuable skills, you're able to network. And yeah, I think that's why I became a home economist, and I've stayed with it since.
I feel like I guess I can agree to what you're saying, how like there's so many clubs available at like universities and stuff like that. And some people kind of almost have like a pros and cons, like, oh, should I join this one? Oh, but my course load is too much. But I feel like if you just try and see if you can work it out in your schedule, I feel like it'll be beneficial.
Yeah.
For me, like I'm part of RHEA and I'm part of RHEA and RHEA. So having part of these three associations, I feel like that the networking options are endless, but at the same time, you need to utilize these associations if you want to pursue certain certain jobs or opportunities within them. So I feel like maybe students feel like it's too hard, or maybe they won't help you out. But like Kathy said, she reached out to us, she provided her email. So I feel like we just have to communicate with our colleagues. Everyone wants to help each other out, right? So
Yeah, and like in first year, you might feel really overwhelmed and like you need to join all of these clubs, but you're not going to get the best experience. And when you join so many clubs, and that's what I found, I tried to be part as many clubs as possible because I thought that's what would look good on a resume. And then as time went on, I couldn't be part of as many clubs, and I kind of narrowed them down into the ones that I was really interested in. So it was good that I joined so many clubs because I was able to narrow down my interests. But definitely this association has helped me so much in my career and my future career. So yeah.
and I was going to ask you about many opportunities for you to network, but you've touched on that already. But how about could you give us some insight about some tips maybe for students to maybe kind of get over that little hump of fear of interacting with people from associations or maybe like conferences? Because like I know when I was like 20, 19, 20, 21, I was kind of like scared or like hesitant to join these conferences because I felt like I couldn't produce any quality conversation, I guess, because I was so young. So could you provide some insight on that?
Yeah, so I was the same way. And I didn't attend my first, I think I only attended one in my first year. And I was still really nervous. But I would encourage you when you do go to a conference to sit with your friends and your peers, but also try to sit with other people that you don't know. Specifically at like this AICS conference that I went to, we were seated with a bunch of other people from other schools in the same program. And it was really easy to connect and network like that. Also, just don't be afraid because they're exactly like you and they've been in this position before. It's so much easier to go up to somebody and just introduce yourself and talk about your passions and your interests. And that can really get across to the individual that you're talking to. So just be yourself and be normal. There's really no reason to be so scared and nervous, although obviously you will be, and I still am to this day. But knowing how to communicate and going up to those people and making those network and those connections is really important. Even at the gym, not too long ago, I had somebody that I recognized that I worked where I worked before. They came up to me and I was telling them about my schooling and they offered me a job. So there's really just so many ways that you can connect and network with people. It doesn't just have to be at a conference. And that was something that I was going to say before about my favorite thing about having the designation is getting to explain what it means to people, because a lot of the times when you're so passionate about the subject, that makes people so inclined to keep listening and wanting to get to know you more or wanting to have you as part of their team. So just find where your passions and your interests lie. And another thing that we've learned in my class is have like a little bit of an elevator pitch. So like 30 seconds about some of like really quick facts about yourself and your interests and your passions. And it's really simple and easy, but effective. Oh, and I think I had a question. are you studying to be a dietitian and a home economist at the same time? So I am studying to become a dietitian, but to be a home economist is actually much more simple. You just have to graduate from a certain degree in like food sciences or something like that. And then you apply to the association for the designation. And then you just pay for that designation throughout. And something that I will touch on that as well is if you're having any financial constraints, you can always reach out to the organization because they have a lot of funding and things like that, and they can pay for your association and membership.
Yeah, that's definitely a key factor for like OHEA and other associations where they kind of like sponsor students. So I feel like if students know that, they'll be more likely to pursue such activities or associations.
And conferences. So
Mhm.
they will most of the time have sponsors. So I was normally a volunteer, so I didn't have to pay for the conference, but I do know so many people that reached out and they were able at least to cover like half their fees because conferences can get a little bit pricey, but they are worth it.
Mhm. Did you find like do you utilize LinkedIn for your networking opportunities?
So until taking this course and being in a course with Sue Ma, if anybody knows who she is, she's a social media dietitian, like rock star. And she really showed us the benefits of having LinkedIn. So it wasn't until this year that I really started building my LinkedIn. And honestly, it's incredible. Like people endorse all your skills, employers are constantly looking at you. And I can actually see some of the placements that I'm going to be at. I can see that employers or people from that business have looked at my profile. So including any awards that you've gotten or anything like that, it really just creates such a broader network and ways for you to find jobs and also just connect with people from other schools, which I found really beneficial as well.
We actually had a sumo on one of our events. I think it was in the fall term.
Great. Yeah,
So
she has a
mhm.
course and she's incredible. Yeah, she's so great.
I had like a few conversations with her, or actually over LinkedIn, and if you reach out, she was so helpful. I like asked like, oh, but like networking type of stuff like that, and she gave me all the facts. She's like, maybe you should do this if you're pursuing your master's. Maybe you should maybe start like a blog on Instagram or something as like just to build yourself up as you progress through the 4-year program at Ryerson. So
Yeah,
mm,
absolutely. This is just like off the tracks, but one thing that she told our class was, you know how people do hashtags at the end of like social media posts, doing camel case, which is making each word, the first letter capitalized, makes it so much more accessible and easier to read for people, which a lot of people don't think about. But nowadays, like that's everybody in my program, that's what we're doing. And trust me, it does work and make a difference. So that's just one little tip.
wow, that's actually very helpful. I feel like maybe students don't utilize LinkedIn and these type of online platforms because maybe they're just not, they don't think it's useful. I know from my previous degree, we had actually a professional course where they taught us about resume building, cover letters, interview skills, and stuff like that. And I feel like if Ryerson could implement that into the program, I feel like it could prepare students for the master's program, or like what Kathy was saying about building communication, which is very important. So I feel like it could benefit a lot of students having that type of program for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do know that Ryerson has a pretty good career center, and you can reach out to them anytime and like book meetings with them to talk about your resumes. But I do, speaking from my own personal experience, I have sometimes difficulty asking other people for help. So that's something that I probably wouldn't have done. But having a class and a course that would be dedicated and surrounded about that would be very, very helpful.
Hmm. So we have a question in the chat. So it says,
Okay.
where would you like to take your career? Do you know other dietitians who are home economists?
Great question. So, my career, honestly, up in the air. My placements begin, and you have to meet a certain amount of competencies. So, really, right at this moment, I've always loved management and leadership roles. So, I'm hoping to work with a food company, but who knows? I might go into clinical and absolutely love it, although I think that is a little bit less likely. And there's tons of registered dietitians who are also home economists, and I'm still in contact with a lot of them to this day. And they are great to have on your resume, and they're great when you go to conferences and then you meet them and you get to connect with them there. So you don't feel as like this imposter syndrome going to these conferences where you don't know anybody, especially if you don't know if any of your friends or colleagues are coming. And so, yeah, there's a lot of dietitians that are home economists. We're on this like little subsection within a subsection, if that makes sense.
Actually, Sumo actually brought up this tip. It was in our fall event, and she said, just try everything. I think it was Sumo or one of the panelists that we had last term, and she basically just said, like, try everything. Like, if you don't feel like, let's just say you're not interested in research, just try it out, see if you like it, or try clinical, see if you like it, or managerial. And if you spend enough time in it, maybe that might be your new passion. I feel like
Yeah.
nutrition has like many layers than just clinical or managerial. So one day you could be on one side of the fence, and then next time you'd be on the other. So I think that's
So
the beauty of the course.
yeah. So I'm not sure how many are in nutrition currently and looking into a master's, but I will tell you that Ryerson's communication program has been amazing for identifying the other areas that you could go into. One class is specifically dedicated to having like guest speakers come. So we've had dietitians who work at Red Bull, dietitians that work at Smart Sweets. We've had dietitians that work with cannabis. So there's just all these emerging sectors, and maybe you will have to go to a company that doesn't already have the position and make a position for yourself. But dietitians can really be part of any pathway, which is so great. I'm sorry for people who are here that aren't trying to become a dietitian, but from my perspective, yeah, there's so many pathways.
What kind of projects have you done that are related to home economics?
Yeah, great question. So a lot of my volunteering positions have been cooking classes and cooking preparation classes for members in the community, ranging from kids to adults, like literally in their 70s or 80s, who have never even touched raw chicken before. So that's been really crazy coming from, going to class and loving cooking and being so young, and then going and having to teach it to people like 40 years my senior. That's been really interesting. Just from this year, I've done projects on marketing to children, specifically in food and television, as well as grocery stores, like those checkout aisles, we call them temptation checkout aisles. So that's what I've been really interested in lately. Also, this isn't really about home ec, but I've also done a lot of research with entomophagy, which is the act of eating insects, which also could be incorporated because the whole role of a home economist is to increase and enhance the lives of everybody. So that includes sustainable food systems and sustainable healthy diets.
Wow, that's intense.
It's been great.
So what kind of jobs, like, I know like you're not really sure, but like what kind of jobs would you want to pursue? Like maybe like your top 4 or 5, if you have 5.
Okay. I'm not sure if they're more jobs and more just like the type of role that I would like to have. So definitely policy, like Kathy was saying. There's a lot of jobs and they're always looking for people who are passionate and can advocate. However, policy is really difficult and it takes a really long time to even get a policy implemented. And that's one of the courses we've taken in my master's. So that has really increased my interest in policy development. So working in government would be incredible. Also, any food service sector, like I've been talking about before. Also, consumer marketing. I love GMOs and pesticides and trying to talk to people about that and the miscommunication behind it all. Because that's what our profession is really all about. It's translating our scientific knowledge into accessible knowledge for the public, because they really just don't know.
Exactly.
I don't know if that was 5. Definitely not 5. Sorry.
That's okay. So I have another question. So we talked about like being home ec having many different layers. would you be, what kind of other layers of home ec would you be interested, like financial or like planting or like consumer? I guess you talked about the consumer services, but what other hats or subsections of home economy would you be
Yeah.
interested in?
So even family relationships and dynamics can be put underneath this category. And I think that's huge in the food sector. Like even just talking to families about why it's important to have meals together, why it's important to maybe not have technology when you're eating your meals together, like the social aspect. Also just working with other cultures and ethnicities and learning about, the foods that their cultures represent and what they like to eat versus, the westernized diet that we all talk about. It's really important to get that out there and get these companies to start having those types of products because consumer demand, like that's what they want. They want plant-based, they want variety. Financial counseling, my partner, he's really into stocks and he's really into finances as well, which has kind of pushed me a little bit into that direction. And we've had budgeting classes as well, which has been really great and informative. So maybe potentially I could see myself getting over into that side, but really it's more about, to me, it's more about like food writing and food translation and styling and public relations that I'm the most interested in from the home economics. Ooh.
So we just have a poll just to see if we can get some questions, like how many people are want to pursue a registered dietitian.
Yeah.
So we have 5 votes.
So something else I wanted to say is that joining OHEA, they have a lot of scholarship opportunities. So I got scholarships when I studied abroad in France for 1 year, and I got a scholarship to go away, which really helped pay for my costs. And I also got a scholarship for my master's. They have a lot of scholarships for graduate programs because obviously they are very costly. So I'd recommend looking into that if you are part of the association or if you're thinking about being part of the association, because trust me, they are really easy to get. Some of the application processes are, you have to send so many things, you have to have references, you have to have all this stuff. I'm pretty sure I wrote like an essay. It was like 1 page, very easy.
So the results of the poll are 90%. So 9 out of the 10 people that voted
Nice.
are interested in registered dietitian. Well, I think that's nice because, like we said, being a dietitian and a home economist can go side by side.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. Does anybody here want to go into a master's program? Specifically Ryerson's? Potentially. Great. So if you guys have any questions about the program itself, you can always ask me right now, or you can reach out to me later as well.
Yeah,
I did go to Brescia for my undergrad, so. Pardon?
I was saying we can have a little Q&A period right now with anyone that has a question.
Yeah. Maybe I'll answer one of the questions that you didn't ask me yet, which is, what did I wish I knew when I was in university that I know now? Even though I'm still in university, I'll speak from my undergrad experience. Again, I wish that I knew quality over quantity. I wish I understood that it wasn't about how many experiences you have, but it's about the quality of the experience. So did you move up in the experience? Did you go from a general member to like an executive position? Or did you work in volunteering positions where you could also be part of the board? That's a huge thing. And especially for OHEA, they have so many opportunities and openings all the time on the board of directors. So definitely look into those types of boards. And honestly, they're not as much work as you might think they are. And it doesn't matter how young you are. They are actually especially looking for younger people. So look into that. And also grades. Grades are not everything. Like they matter, but they're not the sole reason why or how you're going to get into a master's program. speaking from somebody who didn't have like a 4.0 GPA and was really scared about my clinical marks and things like that, they really looked at who you were as a person and the experiences that you had versus just your marks alone. So just keep that in mind. It's more of the well-rounded. Okay, we have a question here. Did you get into your master's on your first time applying? I did. So when I was at RHEA, I had to meet with a program coordinator, and basically she went through my marks and my resume and my experience. And in that interview, she told me that I shouldn't bother. So I didn't. I took a year off. And in that year, I just worked. I worked as a dietary aide, even though I'd already been one before. So I didn't even really gain any more experience. And then I applied to RHEA and Ryerson the next year, and I got both. So it's really up to you in your confidence levels and your ability, but really don't let anybody tell you that you can't do what you want to do. I remember calling my mom and saying, I can't apply, I'm not ready, I don't have the marks, how am I going to get in, blah, 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 blah. I got in. That's all I got to say. It's nerve-wracking and it's stressful, and making your portfolio is very stressful as well, but just reach out to people that are in the program, because we are more than happy to assist you and send you some information and just help you along that process, because we know how it feels. And don't be discouraged, because I did take a year off and, I felt behind. I was like, everybody is a year ahead of me. Like you just get that mentality that you're so behind, but you're not. And like, I'm 23 and I'm almost done my master's. That's insane. That's insane to me.
Okay, so
I think
let's
I've
do
been-
the chat question.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi.
Hi, sorry. Do you mind if I just ask a quick question? I'm just hopping on mic here.
Sure.
So I know you've talked a little bit about your experiences and your work also, like as a dietary aide. I was just wondering if you can say which of your experiences you thought was most valuable in terms of like making a competitive applicant for your master.
Great. Actually had nothing to do with dietary at all or food. I worked at a marina for 6 years and I became the manager. So it was really that leadership position and that role that I think stood out to a lot of people that were viewing my resume. And when I was actually applying, I'm trying to think maybe my other ones. I also didn't really have any research experience. So that was interesting that I got into RHEA as well. I even remember in the interview, I was like, I don't have any research experience. And the interviewer was like, don't worry, everything's research experience. So I just made like my projects. I just kind of made it up on the spot. Like, well, not made it up, like it was true, but I was just trying to formulate in my head where I had that research experience, whether it was just from a class or whether it was from like a project I did where I had to research for a bunch of references and things like that. But I would definitely say my biggest one would just be the leadership, because that's what a lot of these applications they're looking for. They're looking for that ability to lead. And maybe I didn't become an executive in a club, but I had that leadership role from somewhere else. So definitely look into those types of positions and roles if you can.
So we have another chat question. So what's the application process to become a member of OHEA?
Oh my gosh, so simple. I think you just go into the website, you type in your information and you put in your credit card information and they have like the student membership. If you were talking about becoming a PX, that's a little bit different. You apply once you graduate and you can send them, the graduation status that you had, and then they'll come back to you and let you know if you got accepted or not. I don't think they really turn people away.
Is the process different if you just become a student and becoming a board member?
Yeah. So you can still be a student and be a board member. Is that what you mean?
I mean, like the process, like can I either apply, like you apply to be a student member one way,
Oh, I see.
is it the same way to be
It's
a
almost
board
like
member?
applying for a job to be a board member. It's you go through an interview process, and you send in your resume, you send in your CV, you send in all that. So that is obviously different. It's like a job position, volunteering
Mhm.
position. was going to say something. Now I can't remember. But yeah, very easy process. So would recommend, and not expensive, especially compared to Dietitians of Canada, which are pretty expensive. So can you apply to be a member of OHEA without having completed? Yeah, okay, so maybe that's the confusion here. So you can be a student member of OHEA, but to get the designation of a PEC, you have to graduate. So you can't have like the PEC designation behind your name until you graduate, and then you pay for that role. Something that I will tell you, if say that you graduate and you apply for the PEC designation, if then you go back to school and you try to get the student membership fee, they will take that PEC designation away from you. So if you want to keep that designation, you have to keep applying for the graduate status or for the PEC status, which is a little bit more expensive. But in my opinion, it was worth it to have PEC instead of saying that I was just a student member as a graduate student though. So yeah, definitely apply. I've been a member of OHA since my first year of university. Yeah, it is very cool.
Does anyone else have any more questions?
I know this doesn't have to do with PEC or anything, but does anyone have any questions about the master's program at Ryerson? I'd be more than happy to share some insight if anybody does, if they're interested in applying to it.
Yeah, I was actually just going to ask, sorry, I'm just going to hop on camera. So
Do it.
I was actually just going to ask you if you could like talk a little bit about your experience, because I think probably a lot of people are hoping to apply to this Ryerson Master of Communication. So can you just speak about like what the classes are like and how you enjoy, just about your overall experience?
Yeah, for sure. So the main reason why I chose Ryerson, even though I did my undergrad at RHEA, was I didn't want to do anything really research-based. And something that I wasn't interested in at RHEA as well was you didn't get to pick your researcher, like who the professor that you'd be working with, and also what you wanted to research. So that to me was like, what if I don't have an interest in it? What if I don't really like the prof? And the mentality at RHEA is very different, especially going from RHEA to Ryerson. I really understand. I understand the difference. It's dramatic because at RHEA they're very competitive. You feel like everybody's working against you instead of with you. It's that type of mentality. Whereas Ryerson, I found everybody's lifting each other up. Everybody wants everybody to succeed, which is amazing, and also very respectful of other cultures and other ethnicities, which is just not something that was talked about at RHEA. So the course overall, I've absolutely loved it. Obviously, it's been very different virtually, but the professors have been really great. Some courses that I went into, not very excited, ended up being my favorite classes. Food policy, for example, if you guys know Fiona Udell, she's an incredible professor. She's so knowledgeable in policy. I've learned so much, and it's made me really want to work in policy, which I never thought would be something I'd be interested in. Ryerson undergrad also feels like, oh, does it? Maybe it's the undergrad mentality then. I will tell you that master's mentality is very different. It's almost like you've all made it, I guess, in a sense, and you also know that a lot of people's interests are very different. So you don't feel like you're working against each other to get the same job, if that makes sense. Sorry.
So you go.
No, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say like how someone was saying that feels like everyone's against each other. I feel like having that mindset in the back of your mind, I feel like that could almost be your kryptonite in your process of focusing on yourself.
Yes. And applying.
Mm-hmm.
That was something big because the applying process, I know that you find out while you're in school, like while you're still in school. So because I wasn't applying and I knew I was taking a year off, everybody else around me who had applied were feeling very let down, when the first round came out and other people got it and they didn't. So personally for me, like taking a year off was really nice for my mental state, I will say. And also just having a little break from school, because that was a lot of schooling in 4 years. But from the course overall, you know, it's hard to explain, but you learn so much and you feel like you can't learn anymore, and you almost feel like you're an imposter. Like I would sit in class and I'd be like, how am I going to bring this into real life situations? Like, what am I going to use this for? That's what I was feeling during undergrad. And I feel like now in my master's, it's like, okay, this makes sense. I can now take what I learned in my undergrad and effectively translate it to the public and to my colleagues and to my professors in ways that I wasn't able to do before in my undergrad. So I think that's where I've really succeeded in this course, in this
So we actually have
program,
a,
sorry.
we have a question a little bit before. It says, did you use that home ec designation in your application?
Yeah, I did. It's just right beside my name, basically right at the title. And then you put that in your professional like development at the bottom. So I just put like that I was part of the association from then to then. And same with like Dietitians of Canada and any conferences that you are part of, especially because that was a big volunteering part for me. Was I volunteered for the annual OHE conferences at RHEA for the 2 years that they were there. And I had a pretty high role there. So that looked pretty good on the resume, but definitely put in your resume. And then you also get to speak about it, right? Like if they ask you a question, it's pretty easy to fall back onto your designation and make yourself stand out against other applicants.
Can you like speak on the interview process and what that was like?
Sure. So that probably will be very different for the next few years, maybe when it's virtual, but I've helped friends just this year who applied. I helped them with their resumes and their cover letters, and they all got interviews. And as far as I know, they all got offers as well. So that's great. The interview process at Ryerson was very interesting. You basically had 4 people and there was 4 doors, and you would stand outside a door and you had 30 seconds to read the question on the door, come up with an answer, and then they would like ring a bell and you go inside the door. And then there was normally like a professor there and then a student that was currently in the program. And that was the interview. So it was like role playing constantly. Whereas Brescia's was very different. There was so many people in there and they had this like big gong, and then they would hit the gong and then you just like move from section to section, and there would be tons of different questions, but you didn't know what the question was until you got there. So then you're like sitting there kind of nervous reading the question in front of the other person. So, and they had like a variety of questions there, whereas Ryerson was 4 questions, more focused on like communication. Mm-hmm.
Does anyone else have any more questions?
If you don't right now, that's no problem, but definitely reach out to me if you have any questions when you're applying. More than happy to help. And I love reading cover letters and resumes and editing. So let me know.
Can you put your information into the chat, like your LinkedIn or your email or?
Yeah, let me get my LinkedIn.
So a question in the chat. So it says, did you use the Career Center for your applications? And then she asks, are you on LinkedIn as well?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn and I have never used a career center in my life, although I probably should have. But no, I never did. Yeah, I'd say the reason why I didn't was because I had friends in the program and I reached out to them and I asked them about the application process, and they were really helpful and knowledgeable because, you know, there's a lot of things that you have to upload and things that you might not really understand. So that's what I did. But I do know that a lot of people in my program did use the Career Center, and what's the one guy's name? He's bald. You guys know who I'm talking
Ken.
about? Ken, he's amazing. So definitely reach out to him for any questions on your resume and things, because he's incredible. Even though I didn't use him, he's incredible. Yeah, that's my LinkedIn. And then my email is literally elizabeth.soden@ryerson.ca as well. Alrighty.
Any final questions, everyone? We'll give it like 1 minute and then we can do the closing statements and stuff. Okay, so I just wanted to thank you for joining us today and providing you with all your insight and educating us on the master's programs and what it's like to be a home economist and stuff like that.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. And hopefully some of you guys reach out and stay in touch. Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks a lot, Beth.
See ya.
See you. So before we close, we're gonna draw for the Amazon gift cards. So I will assign everyone some numbers and then I'll use a random number generator to pick the winner. So Caroline is going to be number 1. Jacqueline is number 2. Sorry if I pronounce your names wrong. Ogichi is going to be 3. Rose is 4. Ruth is 5. And Thyraniga is, sorry if I pronounced it wrong, is going to be number 6. So I'll share my screen so we can do the names. Everyone can see it, right? Can someone let me know if they can see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. So for the first gift card, it's going to be number 1. So that was, Nate, can you write down the name for me?
Yep.
Thank you.
I believe that was Caroline.
Let me know when you're ready for the next one.
Yep.
Okay, and then for the second winner, it's gonna be number 6.
That was Thyraniga.
Yeah. All right, so the 2 winners, you guys want $15 Amazon gift cards. And we will be sending it to you by, I guess, email, right?
Yeah, I have both emails, so that worked.
Okay. Yeah, so you should get it within, I think, 1 or 2 days, right, Nate?
Maybe an hour.
Okay, 1 hour. And yeah, that concludes our career night. Thanks everyone for joining.
Thank you, everybody.